Hey guys, Miss Sandlin here. I am about to continue reading our Percy Jackson and the Titan's Curse. Whew. I've been having technical difficulties this morning, so we are going to get through this, but that's okay. Let's see, last we left off, Artemis is going to hunt some mysterious creature that she won't tell anybody about. Sounds just like an Olympian to go and do things mysteriously. Annabeth's still missing. Bianca decided to join the hunters instead of go to Camp Half-Blood, which kind of leaves Nico out to dry. He'll have to go to Camp Half-Blood without his sister. And Nico's little brother, I think he needs his big sister to help him out, but that's what she decided. And now we are waiting on Apollo, Artemis's twin brother, to pick up the hunters and Percy and the gang and take them to Camp Half-Blood. So let's get started. Finally, the sky began to lighten. Artemis muttered, "About time. He's so lazy during the winter." "You're, waiting for sunrise?" I asked. "For my brother, yes." I didn't want to be rude. I mean, I knew the legends about Apollo, or sometimes Helios, driving a big sun chariot across the sky. But I also knew that the sun was really a star about a zillion miles away. I'd gotten used to some of the Greek myths being true, but still, I didn't see how Apollo could drive the sun. "It's not exactly as you think," Artemis said, like she was reading my mind somehow. "Oh, okay." I started to relax. "So it's not like he'll be pulling up in a..." There was a sudden burst of light on the horizon, a blast of warmth. "Don't look," Artemis advised. "Not until he parks, at least." Parks? I averted my eyes and saw that the other kids were doing the same. The light and warmth intensified until my winter coat felt like it was melting right off me. Then suddenly, the light died. I looked, and I couldn't believe it. It was my car. Well, my dream car anyway. A red convertible Maserati Spider. It was so awesome it glowed. Then I realized it was glowing because the middle was hot. The snow had melted around the Maserati in a perfect circle, which explained why I was now standing on green grass and my shoes were wet. The driver got out smiling. He looked about 17 or 18, and for a second, I had the uneasy feeling it was Luke, my old enemy. This guy had the same sandy hair and outdoorsy good looks. But if it wasn't Luke... But it wasn't Luke. This guy was taller, and he had no scar on his face like Luke. His smile was brighter and more playful. Luke didn't do much more than scowl and sneer these days. The Maserati driver wore jeans and loafers and a sleeveless t-shirt. "Wow," Thalia muttered. "Apollo is so hot." "He's the sun god," I said. "Not what I meant, Percy." "Little sister," Apollo called. If his teeth were any wider, he could have blinded us without the sun car. "What's up? You never call. You never write. I was starting to get worried." Artemis sighed. "I'm fine, Apollo, and I am not your little sister." "Hey, I was born first." "We're twins. How many millennia do we have to argue?" "So what's up?" he interrupted. "Got the girls with you, I see. You all need some tips on archery?" Artemis grit her teeth. "I need a favor. I have some hunting to do, alone, and I need you to take my companions to Camp Half-Blood." "Sure thing, sis." And he raised his hands in a stop-everything gesture. "I feel a haiku coming on." The hunters all groaned. Apparently, they'd met Apollo before. He cleared his throat and held up one hand dramatically. "Green grass breaks through snow. Artemis pleads for my help. I am so cool." And he grinned at us, waiting for applause. "The last line was only 4 syllables, Artemis said. Apollo frowned. "Was it?" "Yes, what about, I am so big-headed?" No, that's 6 syllables. He started muttering to himself. Zoe Nightshade turned to us. "Lord Apollo has been going through this haiku phase ever since he visited Japan. 'Tis not as bad as the time he visited Limerick, If I'd had to hear one more poem that started with, "There once was a goddess from Sparta." "I've got it," Apollo announced. "I am so awesome." "That's 5 syllables." He bowed, looking very pleased with himself. "And now, sis, transportation for the hunters, you say? Good timing. I was just about ready to roll." "These demigods will also need a ride," Artemis said. "They're some of Chiron's campers." "Ah, no problem." Apollo checked us out. "Let's see. Hey, Thalia, right? I've heard all about you." Thalia blushed. "Hi, Lord Apollo." "Zeus's girl, right? Makes you my half-sister. Used to be a tree, didn't you? Glad you're back. I hate it when pretty girls turn into trees. Man, I remember this one time." "Brother," Artemis said, "you should really get going." "Oh, right." Then he looked at me, and his eyes narrowed. "Percy Jackson." "Yeah, yes, sir." It seemed weird calling a teenager sir, but I'd learned to be careful with immortals. They tended to get offended easily. Then they blew stuff up. Apollo studied me, but he didn't say anything, which I found kind of creepy. "Well," he said at last, "we better load up, huh? Ride only goes one way, west. And if you miss it, you miss it." I looked at the Maserati, which would seat 2 people max. There was like 20 of us. "Cool car," Nico said. "Thanks, kid," Apollo said right back. "But how will we all fit?" "Oh." Apollo seemed to notice the problem for the first time. "Well, yeah, I hate to change out of sports car mode, but I suppose." And he took out his car keys and beeped the secondary alarm button. Chirp, chirp. For a moment, the car glowed brightly again. When the glare died, the Maserati had been replaced by one of those turtle-top shuttle buses like we used for school basketball games. "Right," he said. "Everybody in." Zoe ordered the hunters to start loading. She picked up her camping pack, and Apollo said, "Here, sweetheart, let me get that for you." And Zoe recoiled, her eyes flashing murderously. "Brother," Artemis chided, "you do not help my hunters. You do not look at, talk to, or flirt with my hunters, and you do not call them sweetheart." Apollo spread his hands. "Sorry, I forgot. Hey, sis, where are you off to anyway?" "Hunting," Artemis said. "It's none of your business." "I'll find out. I see y'all. I know all." Artemis snorted. "Just drop them off, Apollo, and no messing around." No, I never mess around." And Artemis rolled her eyes again, then looked at us. "I will see you all by winter solstice. Zoe, you are in charge of the hunters. Do well. Do as I would do." Zoe straightened. "Yes, m'lady." And Artemis knelt and touched the ground as if looking for tracks. When she rose, she looked troubled. "So much danger. That beast must be found." And she sprinted towards the woods and melted into the snow and shadows. Then Apollo turned and grinned, jangling the car keys on his finger. "So, who wants to drive?" The hunters piled into the van. They all crammed into the back so they'd be as far away as possible from Apollo and the rest of us highly infectious males. Bianca sat with them, leaving her little brother to hang in the front with us, which seemed cold to me, but Nico didn't seem to mind. "This is so cool," Nico said, jumping up and down in the driver's seat. "Is this really the sun? I thought Helios and Selene were the sun and moon gods. How come sometimes it's them and sometimes it's you and Artemis?" Downsizing," Apollo said. "The Romans started it. They couldn't afford all those temple sacrifices, so they laid off Helios and Selene and folded their duties into our job descriptions. My sis got the moon and I got the sun. It was pretty annoying at first, but at least I got this cool car." "But how does it work?" Nico asked. "I thought the sun was a big fiery ball of gas." Apollo chuckled and ruffled Nico's hair. That rumor probably got started because Artemis used to call me a big fiery ball of gas. Seriously, kid, it depends on whether you're talking astronomy or philosophy. You want to talk astronomy? Bah, what fun is that? You want to talk about how humans think about the sun? Now that's more interesting. They've got a lot riding on the sun, so to speak. It keeps them warm, grows their crops, powers engines, makes everything look, well, sunnier. This chariot is built out of the human dreams about the sun. It's as old as Western civilization itself, and every day it drives across the sky from east to west, lighting up all those puny little mortal lives. The chariot is a manifestation of the sun's power, the way mortals perceive it. Make sense? Nico shook his head. No. Well then, just think of it as a really powerful, really dangerous solar car. Can I drive it? No, you're too young. Ooh, Grover raised his hand. No, too furry. He looked past me and focused on Thalia. Daughter of Zeus, Lord of the Sky, this is going to be perfect. Oh, no, Thalia shook her head. No thanks. Come on, Apollo said. How old are you? Thalia hesitated. I don't really know. It was sad but true. She'd been turned into a tree when she was 12, but that had been 7 years ago. So she should be 19, but if you went by years, well, she still felt like she was 12. And if you looked at her, she seemed somewhere in between. The best Chiron could figure, she had kept aging while in tree form, but much more slowly. Apollo tapped his finger to his lips. You're 15, almost 16. How do you know that? Hey, I'm the god of prophecy. I know stuff. You'll turn 16 in about a week. That's my birthday, December 22nd. Which means you're old enough now to drive with a learner's permit. Thalia shifted her feet nervously. I know what you're gonna say. You don't deserve an honor like driving the sun chariot. That's not what I was gonna say. Don't sweat it. Maine to Long Island is a really short trip. And don't worry about what happened to the last kid I trained. You're Zeus's daughter. He's not going to blast you out of the sky. Apollo laughed good-naturedly. The rest of us didn't join him. Thalia tried to protest, but Apollo was absolutely not going to take no for an answer. He hit a button on the dashboard, and a sign popped up along the top of the windshield. I had to read it backwards, which, for a dyslexic, really isn't that different than forward. I was pretty sure it said, "Warning, student driver." "Take it away," Apollo told Thalia. "You're going to be a natural at this." I'll admit, I was jealous. I couldn't wait to start driving. A couple of times that fall, my mom had taken me out to Montauk when the beach road was empty, and she'd let me try out her Mazda. I mean, yeah, that was a Japanese compact, and this was the sun chariot, but how different could it really be? Speed equals heat, Apollo advised. So start slowly. Make sure you've got good altitude before you really open her up. Thalia gripped the wheel so tight her knuckles turned white. She looked like she was going to be sick. Hey, what's wrong? I asked her. Nothing, she said shakily. Nothing is wrong. And she pulled back on the wheel. It tilted, and the bus lurched upwards so fast I fell back and crashed against something soft. Ow, Grover said. Sorry. Slower, Apollo said. Sorry, Thalia said. I've got it under control. I managed to get to my feet. Looking out the window, I saw a smoking ring of trees from the clearing where we'd taken off. Thalia, I said, lighten up on the accelerator. I've got it, Percy, she said, gritting her teeth, but she still kept it floored. Loosen up, I told her. I am loose, Thalia said, but she was so stiff she looked like she was made out of plywood. We need to veer south for Long Island, Apollo said. Hang left here. Thalia jerked the wheel again and threw me into Grover, who yelped. The other left, Apollo suggested. I made the mistake of looking out the window again. We were at airplane height now, so high the sky was starting to look black. Apollo said, and I got the feeling he was forcing himself to sound calm. A little lower, sweetheart. Cape Cod is freezing over. Thalia tilted the wheel. Her face was chalk white, her forehead beaded with sweat. Something was definitely wrong. I'd never seen her like this before. The bus pitched down and somebody screamed. Maybe it was me. Now we were heading straight toward the Atlantic Ocean at 1,000 miles an hour, the New England coastline right off to our right. It was getting hot in the bus. Apollo had been thrown somewhere in the back of the bus, but he started climbing up the rows of seats. Take the wheel, Grover begged him. No worries, Apollo said, but he looked plenty worried. She just has to learn to... Whoa! I saw what he was saying. Down below us was a little snow-covered New England town. At least, it used to be snow-covered. As I watched, the snow melted off the trees and the roofs and the lawns. The white steeple on a church turned brown and started to smolder. The little plumes of smoke, like birthday candles, were popping up all over the town. Trees and rooftops were catching fire. "Pull up!" I yelled. There was a wild light in Thalia's eyes. She yanked back on the wheel, and I held on this time. As we zoomed up, I could see through the back window that the fires in the town were being snuffed out by the sudden blast of cold. "There!" Apollo shouted and pointed. "Long Island, dead ahead. Let's slow down, dear. Dead is only an expression." Thalia was thundering toward the coastline of northern Long Island. There was Camp Half-Blood, the valley, the woods, the beach. I could see the dining pavilion, the cabins, and the amphitheater. "I'm under control," Thalia muttered. "I'm under control. I'm under control. I'm under control." We were only a few hundred yards away now. "Brake," Apollo said. "I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Brake!" And Thalia slammed her foot on the brake. The sunbutts pitched forward at a 45-degree angle, slammed me into the Camp Half-Blood canoe lake with a huge floosh. Steam billowed up, sending several frightened naiads scrambling out of the water with half-woven wicker baskets. The bus bobbed to the surface, along with a couple of capsized, half-melted canoes. "Well," Apollo said with a brave smile, "you were right, my dear. You had everything under control. Let's go see if we boiled anyone important, shall we?" Whew. That's the end of chapter 4. I would not be in that car with Thalia if I could help it. But it is a little weird that the daughter of Zeus would have trouble with Apollo's chariot. You would think, daughter of Lord of the Sky and all that would go well together. Seems a little weird. But they made it to Camp Half-Blood. Hopefully everyone's all right while they're there, and maybe Chiron can help Percy figure out what to do about Annabeth. But for now, I will leave you guys with that. Chapter 5 is called I Place an Underwater Phone Call. So we'll see what Percy does about that. See you guys next time.